The hero's journey is such an archetype. The hero's journey is a narrative pattern identified by scholar Joseph Campbell in his book, The Hero with a Thousand Faces. It outlines a universal motif of adventure and transformation that runs through virtually all of the world's mythic traditions. The hero's journey unfolds in 3 stages: departure or separation, initiation, and return. In the departure stage, the hero leaves their familiar world and ventures into the unknown, often following a call to adventure. This stage resonates with the enlightened prisoner's departure from the cave and Prometheus's journey to the realm of the gods. The initiation stage is marked by various trials, confrontations, and revelations, leading to a climactic experience that grants the hero new knowledge or power. In the allegory of the cave, this corresponds to the prisoner's exposure to the sunlight and realization of the true world beyond the cave. For Prometheus, it's his acquisition of fire from the gods. The return stage involves the hero's journey back to their familiar world, bearing the wisdom or power they've gained, intending to share it with others. In most stories, the return involves a final trial, which tests the hero's ability to impart that knowledge. This echoes a crucial aspect of the hero's journey. The transformation often incites resistance as it challenges established norms and perceptions.
Unheard of, just brilliant. It revolutionized knowledge dissemination and literacy, impacting society, economy, religion, and culture. So I looked at that and went, you know what? This has happened before. What was the impact? And so I did some research on the Department of Defense Library, and I found a PhD thesis by a young woman, very good one, on exactly what I was after. What was the impact of movable type and Gutenberg's Bible and access to information immediately to everybody? And from that, I derived a series of lessons for special ops, so we could be ahead of everybody else. And I can guarantee you, no was looking at a thesis on Gutenberg in order to work out what to do with the internet. And that helped immeasurably. So what I did was I backcast so I could forecast, so I could look back to see where we were now, and then I could discern any number of trajectories and prepare ourselves for it. Let's see where we were and where we are going, and that was the purpose. So I did the same thing with, AI, because as I said, looking at AI, just getting yourself around AI as a subject is just extraordinary. It is so complex, which even the experts in AI are struggling to comprehend, like us. How do we live in this? And being the source of law and authority, because we're sovereign beings, we have to have our heads. We can't do what our predecessors have done and said, I will defer to the experts. No, the experts can give you advice, but you have to make the decision, every one of us. So what I did was I tried to work out, I guess, a trajectory, backcast, then forecast. Now, I'm going to break it down in a series of ages. Now, don't worry about a timeline because it doesn't work that way, and it's not complete, but it's just to give an idea of where we were and how we've come. So the agrarian age, so we stopped being hunter-gatherers. Then there was the metallurgical age. We started using metals. Then the mechanical age, where we had assistance from machines, steam-driven machines to do things. Then to production age, mass production of food, mass production of machines. The allopathic age, treatment of illness through drugs. The genetic age, understanding what makes us work as animals. The digital age, no more analog solutions, digital problems, digital solutions, ones and zeros. Robotics age, machines that can actually do things that will start replacing humans in a very meaningful way. The intelligence age, meaning this artificial intelligence age we're in now, where the machines can think faster and more accurately than humans can. And then I started projecting forward. Now all you got to do is read, and you can see where this is taking us. The transhuman age. And then from that we can extrapolate the next step, which might be the high. See where we're going with this. And eventually end up with the soulless age. Now, again, this is just a model, a trajectory in order to clarify what do we do with artificial intelligence. And you can see, goodness me, this is going to help us now. We don't need to know about ones and zeros, but we do need to know from a sovereign being's perspective, from the source of law, which we all are. where we are and where we're heading if we're not careful. Because there's an age after that, the God search age. Because you can imagine a species that has so evolved themselves artificially through transhumanism, through genetic manipulation, that eventually they lose contact with the Almighty. And I'll give you hard evidence of that. And they spend millions of years traveling the universe trying to find God again because they've lost it. So this is a cautionary tale. Now, let me just give myself a little bit of a humility pill here. Is this just evolution? Now, this model is elegant, helpful, but it's inaccurate, and I understand that. But it's designed to help people think and see what's coming, so they can anticipate well in advance. Now, it looks like it's inaccurate because this looks like a lovely chronological sequence, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It didn't happen that way. The reality is that the inputs you can see were not sequential. Testing has been done to us to determine our vulnerabilities. This is going back a long way. Let me just give you 4 examples. Now, in terms of the soulless age, evolution, atheism, and a godless universe was promulgated in Charles Darwin's On the Origin of Species. Now, the origin of species is complete lie. He knew it was. Does evolution occur? Micro changes in, say, the color of a sparrow's feathers might change over time because the soot from the factory has now made the trees darker. So the darker sparrows survive and breed, and the lighter colored sparrows are more easily seen by hawks and killed so they don't reproduce. And so that lighter colored sparrow, let's say, ceases to be in abundance in the forest. That works. But on origin of species, no, new species do not appear out of nowhere. And this was to replace God and say we don't need God. And it's a complete lie. New species do not come. There was a period in history called the Cambrian period. And during the Cambrian period, there was an explosion of new life forms. There were no precursor life forms. They just appeared. That's it. It just turned up. And the idea of random mutation and natural selection was supposed to explain that. But if you look at the mathematics, and I've spoken before about a book called The Return of the God Hypothesis by Dr. Stephen Meyer. Brilliant book, worth a read. It is just the pure science and pure mathematics of the impossibility of a workable protein appearing out of nowhere. Anyway, so Darwin knew it, everybody knew it, and they shoved that idea way back when in history to start this godless universe. Next, transhumanism. The poison injection from the Spanish flu in 1918. They've been jabbing us for ages to see who survives and who doesn't. And we know that the diseases were already on the decline before the so-called before the injections were developed. So they gave the injections to people, and then the diseases took off again. So this is part of the transhuman thing. It was actually part of the experiment to see how people survive and how they don't, who does and who doesn't, and why. They're experimenting on us way back when to get to this period in the future. The hive mind period, brainwashing and propaganda through Edward Bernays, who was Sigmund Freud's nephew and is the father of propaganda and brainwashing through television, radio, and the media. And that was put in, and we've been subject to that. And there are many of these, but here's the last one just for tonight anyway. The pineal gland through the COVID shots. Italian researchers have recently discovered that the pineal glands have been destroyed by the COVID shots, and we know that the pineal gland is part of the mechanism with which, through energetic means and the rest of it, we can connect with the Almighty. And so all of this has been going on for some time. It's not like there's this lovely progression. And now, having that context, you can see artificial intelligence as the threat that it is. It's not just a threat to the employment of semi-skilled individuals, which it is, and we, as again, the source of law and sovereign beings, and I keep coming back to that point because this is critical, we have to come up with the plan of how we deal with this. We just can't throw them on the scrap heap and say, tough luck, fellas, you didn't finish school, so your life is over. No, because we have a Christian ethic where we all have that divine spark in us. We are required to, and we should feel driven to look after our brothers and sisters. Am I brother's keeper? Damn right, Joe. And look after these people who are less capable of looking after themselves through circumstances not of their doing. And so now you've got an idea in talking about just AI, you can see this potential trajectory and the large decisions that we have to have an opinion on. upon which we can then create laws to make sure that we advance the civilization without destroying mankind in the process. So that's just to give you a context. And I told you all of that to help you understand the bigger picture. Now let's zoom back down to, from the 40,000 foot view, let's zoom down to where we are today. What has happened? Now this is more than Plato's cave. We are in undetectable slavery. Plato's cave.
In Plato's profound allegory, he uses the metaphor of a subterranean cave to illustrate a group of prisoners sequestered from birth. Their world is one of complete isolation, devoid of any contact with the external universe. Bound by chains and restricted in their movements, they are compelled to face the barren cave wall, deprived of the ability to swivel their heads or see beyond their immediate environment. An enigmatic fire positioned behind them flickers dimly, barely illuminating their dreary surroundings. Periodically, individuals walk behind the prisoners, parading various figures. These are representations of animals, plants, and an array of other artifacts. These objects, when passing by the fire, cast elongated and distorted shadows on the stone wall before the prisoners. Having no other experiences, the prisoners mistake these dancing illusions for reality, categorizing them and assigning them names, erroneously believing that they are discerning, tangible entities. You can see where Plato is going with this. Unexpectedly, one prisoner's shackles are removed, and he is thrust into the world beyond the cave for the very first time. The moment is ripe for him to be tested. The intense brilliance of the sunlight initially hurts his eyes, and the unfamiliar environment bewilders him. When confronted with the fact that his former perception of reality was merely a distorted illusion, and that the things he now sees around him are the real objects, he starts to suffer, his previous reality being deconstructed before his very eyes. The mind that opens to a new idea never returns to its original size. The shadows he was familiar with appeared much more vivid to him. However, as time progresses, his eyes slowly adapt to the overwhelming brightness, and his suffering slowly passes as he gets accustomed to his new perspective. Gradually, he starts perceiving reflections in shimmering water bodies, progresses to observing objects directly, and finally, he dares to gaze at the radiant sun, the ultimate source of light that illuminates everything he has been observing. Emboldened by his newfound understanding, the prisoner makes his way back to the cave, intending to share his revelations with the other prisoners. However, having grown accustomed to the light, he now finds the cave's darkness disorienting and struggles to discern the once familiar shadows on the wall. The other prisoners, misconstruing his disorientation, surmise that his journey into the outer world has left him imbecilic and blinded, thereby rebuffing his attempts to liberate them vehemently. Plato presents this passage as an intricate metaphor, symbolizing the predicament of a philosopher tasked with enlightening the masses. He asserts that most people not only find solace in their ignorance, but also exhibit hostility towards those who challenge their preconceived notions.
We were all there at one point. We're all engaged in this undetectable slavery, and how? Now, there are so many reasons. I remember so many people have said, let's rip the Band-Aid off, bugger the cost, let's just do it. Well, you can't. It's unwise and wrong, because there are so many different categories of people about why they can't see what's going on. There is no one cure. And let's just go through it, because our belief systems will facilitate or hinder our progress. So we've got to understand these different belief systems we have and they have, and why they are where they are. Some people by nurture have been trained by their parents to behave a certain way that made them believe what was being told. Others by their nature, they're just very docile, very gullible, very trusting, and they just trust people. You know, these are good people with a big heart that see the face of God in every person on the planet. Trouble is, a lot of these people are not trustworthy. Some are just following orders because they have a sense of duty. Some believe the media, because how can the media lie to us? The media are good people. It's their job to tell us the news. And they're shocked to find out they're actually an entertainment. They're considered an entertainment and therefore not obliged to tell the truth. Then there are those who have just been out and out deceived. And we've all been deceived. There's no judgment here. We've all been deceived. We've all felt that winded moment where you feel like you've been kicked in the guts and you bend over, literally double over in breathlessness when you realize how badly you've been deceived. Others have been hypnotized through drugs with no recollection of what they've done or intended to do, both accidental and intentional. Some have been possessed. There's countless evidence of possession of demons, demonic possession. It's there. Others have been blackmailed. A lot of them have been blackmailed. Your leadership has been blackmailed. Others have suffered trauma-based mind control, which some survived and some didn't. And they have no clue what they're doing. They have been, their psyche's been fractured many, many ways. And so they go through life not knowing what they're doing and why they're doing it. So it's not like you can grab everybody and just execute them because they're wrong, because these people are no more culpable than a 6-month-old child. Others are highly culpable and require to be treated accordingly. So there you go. These are just some of the categories of people that need to wake up or be dealt with. And you can't just rip off the Band-Aid. It is just insane to think that would be useful in any way at all. So what to do? I want you to imagine a cinema, a theatre, and there's a fire in the theatre. Now, this is an excellent and often used example on the limitations of free speech. And I'm a massive free speech advocate, but I think even it's against the law in the US to yell out fire in a crowded cinema, because what you'll do is more people will actually die in the crush to get out than the fire could possibly do. So you can't yell fire and just hope for the best. You can't do it. It doesn't help, because in that case, some will survive and some will not. So our job is to sort of look at this sliding scale of what's going to save most people, because the finesse with which this operation is conducted will determine the number of people we save. Now, the white hats are doing their bit. They're doing it magnificently. And if you think you can do better, good luck, because you can't. They would have found you and put you on the team if you could have. But the point is this: we have our job to do as well. And the finesse with which we do our job, the captain, Kelly, myself, A1, and all the good people out there genuinely doing the right thing, the better we do our job, the more people we will save. And that's why we have to apply it with finesse and patience, because we all have a job to do. If you're watching this show, you're already ahead of 99.9% of the planet. You really are. And you've got a job to do, because why? You are your brother's keeper and your sister's keeper. And we have to look at short, medium, and long-term assistance to assist and inform on how to build this new world so it never happens again. And because we're now this critical point of the battle. The battle's won. It's not the Schwerpunkt. That's a critical point where you win. We've well past the Schwerpunkt, which is a German term. We are about to open the gates to the labor camps in Germany and expect the people to walk out. They won't. They can't. We have to patiently, as they did with the labor camps, because they opened the gates when the Allies arrived, and they stayed there.
Yeah.
And they couldn't eat, because if they ate a full meal, it would have killed them. So they had to be slowly fed, slowly allow them to realize that you can leave now. And they're saying they're so institutionalized, so damaged, they didn't know what to do. And so that's our job. We're like the arriving Allies. We open up the gates, but be intelligent, be compassionate, be mindful, be empathetic, and understand that if we do our job well, we will save many. If we do it poorly, there'll be a cost.